The final 2 years of President Trump's agenda hangs in the balance. I'm proud to have supported President Trump and worked with him to help him achieve his goals in the Congress. If he's nominated, there's a high risk that Paxton would lose this Senate seat, taking 5 congressional seats down with him. And you don't have to take my word for it. In public polling in the last few months, U.S. Senate nominees are either tied with or beating Paxton if he were the nominee. Ken Paxton as the nominee would be a dead weight at the top of the ticket for Republicans running all across this great state. Over the next 12 weeks, Texas Republican primary voters will hear more about my record of delivering conservative victories in the United States Senate and learn more about Ken's indefensible personal behavior and failures in office. Just like the primary, we have a plan to win the runoff, and we are in the process of executing it. Judgment Day is coming for Ken Paxton. Thank you all. May God bless Texas, and may God continue to bless in the United States of America.
Take a few questions. Jim, you want to start with AP?
Senator, typically a runoff can be a problem spot for an incumbent when you've got an upstart. You feel like, what do you feel like you need to do to motivate your voters versus Ken Paxton's voters?
Well, fortunately, I've had the experience of winning a runoff previously when I was Attorney General. I won a contested runoff for the Republican nomination then. Obviously, we need to encourage as many people as possible who voted in the primary to come back on May the 26th. Fortunately, Texas has an early voting period, which will allow anybody and everybody who wants to vote an opportunity to cast their ballot early. If they don't do it, then they can do it on May the 26th. I think there'll probably be, at last count, maybe as many as 5 races on the ballot, which will make it much more likely we'll see a robust turnout of voters then. But as I said, and as I think we've demonstrated, there's simply just too much at stake for Texas voters to stay home. And I don't expect them to stay home. I expect a robust turnout. We'll certainly be encouraging that.
Teresa,
Senator Cornyn, how did we get here? How is it that in your run for a 5th term, you are facing your first runoff as a Senate candidate?
How did we get here?
Yeah, what is it about Ken Paxton that's driven you to this point?
Well, I like to think, well, first of all, I got a great team. My family, I mentioned, without whose love and support I couldn't do this. But I simply could not in good conscience let someone like Ken Paxton waltz into the Senate as the Senate nominee for the Republican Party for the reasons I mentioned. I think he'll be an albatross around the neck of all of the Republican candidates, including the 5 new congressional seats that President Trump is depending on to win the majority in the House in the midterm elections, which is a challenge given the history. So we will continue to do what we've done and talk about my record of support for the President and his policies and my record of legislative accomplishments. And I would say that, as I've said before, that character is on the ballot. Ken Paxton doesn't believe that that matters. He believes that all of his misbehavior and his scandals are sort of baked in the cake, and he's won a couple of elections since much of that has come out. But there's much more that will come out in the runoff, and which will demonstrate his unfitness for office and his liability of him, the potential liability of him being the nominee in November. I won by 10 points in 2020, and I think I can help down ballot, and I can help President Trump during the remaining 2 years of his term of office after this election.
last one right here.
Yeah, so Senator, the president has expressed support for you and also for Ken Paxton, did not endorse anyone in this primary. Do you expect that to change now that it's gone to a runoff, and do you expect it to be you?
There's only one person on the planet who knows what President Trump's going to do, and that's him. Certainly, I talk to the president on a regular basis. He's got a great team around him of real professionals, Susie Wiles, Chris LaCivita, Tony Fabrizio, just to name a few. and he understands what's at stake. But I understand also why in a contested primary with three of us, he didn't want to have to choose between us and disappoint some of his own base of support. And I think he wanted to see me earn this nomination, as we are well on the path to doing, before he made any kind of decision. But when or if he makes a decision and to get involved in the race is entirely up to him.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, we've been listening to Senator John Cornyn calling Ken Paxton dead weight,
Pretty much.
saying that he's unfit for office and he plans to win the runoff.
Yeah, basically saying that his character is on the ballot and all of this will come out. That right now it's been baked in the cake and all of this will come out from now to May 26th, and that it will be a robust turnout and that he is counting on winning. We shall see.
Yeah, well, let's hear from his opponent. Is Ken
Paxton
speaking now? All right, let's listen to him.
About time we get uniparty, what I really should say, uniparty Democrats out of our Republican primaries and get true conservatives to take a stand for our values inside the U.S. Senate. I don't need to tell you, but this is not a political battle we're in. This is, in fact, friends, a spiritual battle that we are in right now. And we have a current U.S. Senator that represents D.C., not the state of Texas. Right now, we have watched what happens when term limits are not in effect. We have watched what happens when someone starts to please the special interest groups over the constituents that they were sworn in to serve. And I'm here to tell you right now, there is no better man than Ken Paxton himself to fight every single day for the constituents of the great state of Texas. Do you believe that in this room? I don't need to remind you that just a couple days ago, our current U.S. Senator said anyone that votes for Ken Paxton is and I quote, radical. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty proud to be called a radical conservative that wants to stand against the sexualization of our children, that wants to stand for strong borders. Hear me on this, John Cornyn, if it makes me radical to vote for a man that defended us in court against the sham election of 2020, then call me a radical all day long. I want to say there's no one that stood with President Trump like Ken Paxton. There's no one that stood with everyday Texans like Ken Paxton. I want to share this story, and I had the opportunity this last primary season to travel the state with Attorney General Ken Paxton and help take out some rhinos in the Texas House, which we're doing again tonight, if you weren't aware of. And everywhere we traveled, I got to tell one story, and I got to tell the story of the radical sham impeachment of Ken Paxton just a couple years ago. And I love telling this story. I remember being brought back into the office with leadership. And I remember leadership in the Texas House looking at me at the time being led by Dade Phelan, who is no longer going to be in the Texas House, I might add. I remember being brought back and said, Nate, what's it going to take to get you to to get you to impeach Ken Paxton, our great Attorney General? And I said, all I need is one thing, evidence. And he looked at me, this leadership shill under our current speaker, and said, Nate,
All right, we were expecting